Hello, welcome back to Out on That Line podcast. We are going to be recapping the 2024 Grammy Awards. I'm Jeff with my co-host Alex. As always, Alex, how you doing this week?
Let me talk to you. Jeff, it's wonderful to be back after a long, extended absence. Tanner admirably held down the fort. We got some reaction videos out, but it's so good to be back in the saddle. And for a very special hidden track episode, we're going to go through it all. There's even more than the Grammys to talk about. We have all kinds of stuff, but first I got to know. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. We did take a bit of a hiatus. That's on me. Was out looking for the Holy Grail. Couldn't find it. That really only took me a week though, so I could have come back sooner. Figured I needed to buy a lot of lottery tickets. I ended up winning a bunch. Went down to the Eagle Pass Casino down in South Texas, checked out the border situation, then hit the blackjack table, lost it all. So, kind of back to square one here. So we need to keep doing the podcast. Turns out I'm not rich yet. So we're going to keep plugging along here. But other than that, we're fantastic.
Well, speaking of plugs, Jeff, we might as well get this whole business out of the way right off the top. I'm going to keep it brief, folks. I'm going to keep it focused. I'm going to keep it right to the point. You have to be subscribed to the channel. You have to do it. You have to like the videos. You have to turn the notifications on. You have to leave a comment. I'm not asking anymore. Bernie Sanders. I am no longer asking. You got to do it. It's a mandate. It's a mitzvah. You have to do it. Subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/C/out on that line. It doesn't get much easier than that, folks. We have all kinds of great content, but you already know that because you're already here. So why don't you make it official? Why buy the cow when you get the milk for free? Because if you want the cow to keep putting out, you can work those teats until they're chapped and raw and the other cows come home. But let me tell you something. Let me talk to you. You're not going to get what you want unless you commit at youtube.com/C/out on that line.
That was it, beautifully done. I don't know if it could have been more acutely described with how important it is for people to hit that subscribe button. So, I forgot, I mentioned we're going to do the Grammys. We're going to do the Grammys, but there's also been something going on with a couple of artists that we've covered quite a bit on this podcast. One Megan Thee Stallion and one Nicki Minaj. Have you seen anything about this beef? I know you've done one of the songs that's kind of helped stir the pot here. But other than Hiss by Megan Thee Stallion, have you seen anything about this?
No, that was the opening salvo in the Battle of the Butts for me. And I didn't even realize it at the time. I was just like, oh my God. It was like a generic hatred, not generic in quality, but I was like, no, this is pretty like ambiguous. I think she just kind of wants us all to go fuck ourselves. And then someone went into the comments on that video and was like, there's a whole lore behind all the references in this, my friend. Mm-hmm. Allow me to tell you about Bigfoot, I think is the name of the song, right? It's Nicki Minaj's so like diss track.
Yeah, it was so bad. I mean, because Hiss, so you did the reaction video to Hiss. So
Hiss was great.
Go back and check that out. You'll get some context here. So if you remember when we did Pink Friday 2, I forget which song it was, but I think it was multiple times. But Nicki Minaj was saying things along the lines of, you need to stay in your Tory Lane. Tory Lanez being the one that shot Megan Thee Stallion in the foot. And then Megan Thee Stallion comes out with Hiss. You did the reaction video to that, and that never directly like said Nicki Minaj's name, but it was very clear, who she was talking about once you kind of looked into the back and forth here. So she said something like, y'all worried about Megan, you need to worry about Megan's Law, which is, specifically applying to pedophiles, which Nicki Minaj's husband and brother both belong to that label. So it's not a problem that anybody's pointing that out. It's like they did that, you know what I mean? But Nicki Minaj then comes back with the single Bigfoot, and this is completely like underproduced. I mean, it was horrible.
We got to get this one out quick.
Yeah, the references were bad. I'm pretty sure Nicki Minaj allegedly is skiing a lot if you know what I'm saying. So I think
Mm,
that's got things a little jumbled upstairs. And the rhymes weren't good. Nothing was like really that scandalous, or clever. She just was basically trying to hit as below the belt as she could. And it sounded like the recording quality of like us recording this podcast. So the beat, somebody said it sounded like a fighting game on the NES, like kind of beat, So, it's like
that's
just
very
some
good.
like kind of slightly intense, like beep boop kind of music. And the rhymes, like I said, were not good. And Megan the Stallion just looks clean as a whistle in this whole thing because her song was good, you know, and I think it's a long line of like Nicki Minaj is just a hater when it comes to women that are coming up behind her that are as talented or better than her, and she just can't stand that that's going to be the case.
Yeah, see, for a fleeting but beautiful time, Nicki Minaj was the apple of my eye. Around the time Roman Reloaded came out, I'm like, this is not like hardcore. It's very girly, it's very fluffy, but she's got this great sense of humor. So I'm into this, which is kind of like the gateway drug to Doja Cat for me. And Megan the Stallion, though playful, has always had like more of a seriousness to her. Um, but yeah, Nicki Minaj just went off the rail. I don't know what she's talking about half the time. I don't like the company she keeps. The quality of the product fell off hard. And Megan the Stallion, I remember I was not like overly into Traumazine, but she's pretty fucking consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And they could not be more different. You have this like highly educated, interesting horror movie fan, kind of like, I don't want to necessarily say cutting edge, but she did kind of bring something new to it. Yeah, they're all doing the shape shifting butt gimmick in the videos, but why wouldn't you? If I had an ass like that, you don't even want to know what I'd be doing to it and with it. Just saying. Not enough mineral oil in the tri state area, but I digress. Megan the Stallion, I think, like, has staying power to me. Like something like Ice Spice is going to fall off quick. Someone in the comments of my Ice Spice reaction said, this is just more music for people who shoplift at garage sales.
Yeah.
And I
Comment.
want to kiss that person on the mouth.
Our commenters are usually very good. A lot of them we get on the Australia videos, of the John Farnham and the like. They're just giving us some references, which are cool. They're telling us other live versions of those songs to check out. That they did a cover of this or that, and it's led us down some really cool paths. But when we do the more modern songs, like I did the Lil Nas X one, you did the Megan the Stallion Hiss one, you did the Ice Spice, and people put comments like that on those videos, and it's always hysterical. Like the internet remains undefeated.
Yeah, absolutely. Like all the Australian boomers are like so positive and supportive. They're like, come on, mate, you're doing a great job with these fancy videos. And we appreciate that because they definitely don't listen to these. But the people who do listen to these and do watch the reaction videos that are around our age and younger, you really bring the thunder. And it's great to watch worlds collide. Like the very angry audience on my Walker Hayes video, I'd love to see them clash with the people that are like into Megan the Stallion and have some kind of point of view and something to say. That'll be very funny to me. But I digress.
Well, it'll be interesting to kind of see where this goes, because I don't know if Megan the Stallion even needs to come out with a response to this, or if she's just going to wait till her next album. Because Nicki Minaj has made herself look terrible and is holding firmly onto that L, as they say right now.
If Megan the Stallion is smart and we know her to be smart, she's not going to come up with something specifically to go after Nicki Minaj because Hiss had those references and there's an album coming. There's got to be. We had Cobra, now we got Hiss. She's coming up with something. So focus on that. Put out the shit that's actually from it. Don't rush off to the Dreamatorium and come up with
Yeah.
a clapback. We just can't. Just stay the course and do you. And
Yes.
if the beat live, Little Duke made it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Duke, Duke.
I think Megan the Stallion's next album is going to have a lot to say about Nicki Minaj, because it's one thing about like rap songs is right up until that thing is like published and put out there, she could just record a new verse. Like it's very conducive to do that sort of thing. So hopefully she comes out with something good. I know the album will be good. And hopefully we just get the final nail in the coffin for Nicki Minaj, because she's been doing this stuff and we've been putting up with it for too damn long.
Speaking of nails and coffins, Toby Keith died
Oh
this
no.
week.
Oh, no. I was wondering how we were going to segue to that. I would have never.
Jeff,
That's not what I would have chosen.
I said, Jeff, I ain't as good as I was once. Yeah, no, the man himself.
Yeah, he did. 62 years old. And we're going to leave the politics out of it for Toby Keith, because there's certainly a lot to say there. But he's got a few songs. I will specifically say Beer for My Horses, Good as I Once Was, How Do You Like Me Now, Whiskey Girl was also good. Should Have Been a Cowboy, an all-time classic country song. So, Toby Keith, for whatever else he might have been, knew how to write a country hit. And those songs, like Good as I Once Was, there is no song like that one. When that's appropriate to play and listen to, it's the best one for that situation. There is nothing better.
Well, and we were talking before, and you were telling me about the music video for it, and it was like very self-deprecating. Like he goes to join the fight and he gets his ass kicked and all that stuff. I like that. That's great. And I was also saying to you that, like, courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, as a satire, would be like one of the funniest, most charming songs ever, because it's so over the top. My dad has served in the army, and the eagle will fly. Just like so over the top with like, if I see Saddam Hussein, I'm gonna stick my hand up his ass and work him like a puppet for liberty. Like, that song is so over the top that if it was done satirically, it would be the best song ever. As it stands, we said we'd leave politics out of it, but it is a political reaction to things that happened at the time. Hey, if you're going to get mad at Toby Keith, get mad at Hillary Clinton. She voted for the war.
Yeah, so
we said we weren't going to get political.
Oh, yeah, and I think she had co-writing credit on that song. So yeah, if you're going to get mad at anybody, it's her.
And I said Hillary.
But Should Have Been a Cowboy, I mean, is an all-time classic country song.
How's that go?
I should have been a cowboy, should have learned to rope and ride. Like, just talking about old westerns and, go west, young man. Haven't you been told California is full of whiskey, women, and gold? It was his like first big hit, and it's just got that classic country twang on the guitar. I mean, it's really, really fantastic. Beer for My Horses that he did with Willie Nelson. It's some questionable things. They don't outright talk about what kind of people that they're tracking down there, but I would have to assume with Willie Nelson, Willie's just talking about bad guys in general. I think jury was out on what Toby Keith might have been referring to there. But Good as I Once Was, phenomenal, just hysterical video, very funny song, catchy lyrics. That's one thing he could do, is like a really good hook. He was great at doing that. How Do You Like Me Now? Fantastic. Funny story. In I think the early 2000s or something, he was playing some festival type show or like kind of compilation show, whatever it was. Bunch of country artists there, Chris Christopherson being one of them. So Toby Keith finishes his set and is walking off stage and walking by Chris Christopherson, who's going on next. And Toby Keith says to him under his breath something to the effect of, none of that liberal shit out here. All right.
No.
Yeah. And Chris Christopherson, pretty famously, like a very liberal guy, very similar to like Willie Nelson kind of thing. They've been good friends for a long, long time. And I guess Chris Christopherson says something like, you didn't even wear the uniform. Like, what are you writing songs like that for? Just like kind of sunned him a little bit. And like, what is Toby Keith going to say to Chris Christopherson? Like, as good of some of the hits that Toby Keith has had, Chris Christopherson wrote Me and Bobby McGee. He wrote Sunday Morning Coming Down. I mean, he's an all-time great country artist. He was in the Highwaymen with Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, and Willie Nelson. Just made some phenomenal country music over the years, and also starred in the Blade movies, which were also fantastic. it's I'm sad to lose Toby Keith. He did have a few good songs, but I think any discussion of him, you do need to talk about, the rest of the story.
Yeah, and then like I was looking at his Wikipedia, and he was he contained multitudes because he was very complimentary of Bill Clinton and Barack Obama,
Mm-hmm.
kind of in a patronizing way with Obama.
Well, they did pretty good,
Uh,
considering they're Democrats.
yeah, demon rats. And then it was he was like, I think Barack Obama would be a fine choice for president. I also think McCain would be a good pick. And allegedly that's because he was obsessed with Sarah Palin, thought she was the greatest thing ever. And it's like, look, I wouldn't have voted for John McCain, but if we're talking about him isolated, I guess for a Republican, the crusty old fuck, you just like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
He stood up for Barack Obama and said he wasn't a Muslim. He's a good man. Okay.
That's enough for me.
That's not
Yeah.
fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's enough for me.
So, he was a complicated guy and yet a simple man. We're not like trying to rip on him. He was a goober in life. We're going to give him the goober treatment as a tribute. But it's very sad. And rest in power, Toby.
Yes, rest in power. Definitely cranked some of those hits the morning of when I found out, but and we'll continue to do so, much to your chagrin, I'm sure.
Yes. Yes.
Well, what do you say we talk a little bit about the 2024 Grammys, which I did sit and watch the entirety of. So I'd like my little pat on the back here
Jesus.
for supporting corporate America and corporate music, because it was quite an evening. A lot of interesting things happened. Did you see anything about in the beginning? Killer Mike won himself 3 Grammys. Pretty nice, huh? Also got himself arrested and escorted out of the venue directly afterward, due to an altercation with a security guard. So didn't get to enjoy his moment at all. He came out with the album, I think it was just called Michael. Now I've liked Killer Mike. He's done some stuff with Outkast. I don't think I really ever listened to his stuff on his own. And then Run the Jewels started that he did with LP, and I've listened to all of that. I think that stuff is fantastic. But he did win those Grammys on his own for his album Michael. Congratulations to Killer Mike. Hopefully he had some bail money on you that night, because from what I understand, it was like a citizen's arrest that he like pushed a security guard or something, and somebody was like, "I'm holding you here."
Oh my God.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing. It's a much different story because he is a black man, and I don't mean to diminish that. That's like a fucked up thing to go through.
Mm-hmm.
If it were me being the psycho that I am, with all the privileges I have, if I fucking whipped a fucking security guard and they escorted me out of the Grammys after I won 3 awards, that would be a great Grammys for me personally. I'd have the time of my life. I see why it was fucked up for him, but that is honestly the only way I would attend the Grammys.
I can't wait. I bet you LP called him that night, or probably went and picked him up and was like, "Okay, I got a beat for this." And I can only imagine what he's going to have to say about
boy.
that situation. Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. But congratulations to Killer Mike. He won 3 Grammys. There was only one person that won more Grammys than that on the evening of the Grammys. And could you guess who that was, Alex? Somebody won 4. And it's somebody that you know and love.
Somebody that I know and love who won 4. Wait, repeat the question.
So Killer Mike won 3. Fantastic performance at the Grammys. Somebody else won 4.
Was it my girl SZA?
It was not. It was Miss Phoebe Bridgers. So between Boy Genius and her own work, came home with 4 Grammys.
I think wasn't one of them with SZA? Ghost in the Machine?
Yes.
That's a hit.
Yeah, Phoebe Bridgers had herself a night. Apparently Boy Genius all had an altercation with one of the executives of a record label about him being sexist and misogynistic, and it sounds like they were absolutely right.
Oh, no.
Because he has kept completely silent about anything about it. So there's a couple little pieces of gossip just to kick things off. This was before the broadcast even started, Alex. So we we kick off into the Grammys, and you have all your big awards, right? You got Song of the Year, Record of the Year, new artist, album, all that sort of stuff. So everything is kind of going as you expect. There's a lot of what I noticed, like there was a lot of like really good nominees for a lot of these. You had Miley Cyrus nominated for a bunch of stuff, Olivia Rodrigo nominated for a bunch of stuff. You had, as much as we don't like her, Lana Del Rey nominated for a bunch of stuff. So like there was a lot of like very top end artists. You read the nominees and you can think any one of them, honestly, like if they nominate 10, 8 of them realistically could win. So the awards are getting spread around. Miley Cyrus finally wins her first Grammy, her first of 2 Grammys from that night. Also gave a fantastic performance of Flowers. The ad libs she added in there, I don't know if you saw the performance, but she crushed it. She's a performer. I don't know if her careers can get bigger because she's already huge, but I think it's going to after this Grammys. I think a lot of people were behind what she was doing. SZA's performance was fantastic. SZA won herself a Grammy. I think 2 actually. And she did not win Album of the Year. Spoiler alert. She did not win Album of the Year. And that's when I thought, probably could have or should have won Album of the Year. I mean, there was a few great nominees for that. Lainey Wilson won for Best Country Album, beat out Tyler Childers and Zach Bryan, and that guy Jelly Roll, who I still I mean, I've heard the song. I went and got my haircut at Great Clips today because I got a coupon in the mail. And they had that Jelly Roll song, I Only Talk to God When I Need a Favor.
No, that tracks.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is not even a country song. Like so he didn't win, so I guess it doesn't matter. Lainey Wilson won that, and she'll probably tell you if you ever meet her, she's from Northwest Louisiana, so I'm sure that's her, like Davos in Game of Thrones. I was just a humble smuggler.
A crabber's son.
And I was raised up by Stannis.
He cut off my fingers.
So Miley won for Record of the Year.
Yeah.
And then also for and then SZA, Phoebe Bridgers for Pop Duo. Best African Music Performance was Water by Tyla. I didn't know that was, I guess, because it used an Afro beat. I don't know. I don't know what the definition of that is. Pop solo performance. Flowers by Miley beat out. Now this is where like a heavy hitter one. Beat out Paint the Town Red by Doja. That's probably the worst one of the bunch. Well, worst as far as chances to win. Anti-Hero by Taylor Swift. What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish. And then Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo. Now, I could have easily seen this go to Olivia Rodrigo for Vampire, but Flowers was bonkers massive hit, like Driver's License was a few years ago for Olivia Rodrigo. Kind of took over in that same way. It's like 3 billion listens or views across platforms at this point.
It's because of TikTok.
Just insane, just one of those songs that's everywhere. Let's see. Pop vocal album. Taylor Swift won that one. Gross. She was a disaster, a frustrating disaster all night. Just started off like just every single song she does her thing where she's up dancing and all that, and of course the cameras are going to be on her all the time. We get to like Olivia Rodrigo's performance, and they have beef. Like Taylor hates her guts. And Olivia gives like a knockout killer performance of Vampire, like had this like fake blood all over and said like it was cool, and crushed it, like did things with her voice that Taylor Swift couldn't dream of doing. And you can tell it's just like very passive aggressive what she's doing. And then we move to the Dr. Dre like Musical Impact Award. Now this is where it's going to get juicy, and I'm just been kind of giving a quick recap, but from here things really were cooking the rest of the night. So the Dr. Dre Award for Musical Impact, and noted fantastic person without any problematic history, Dr. Dre, great, probably no one else they could have thought of for the award to be named after, but they give it to Jay-Z. So Jay-Z goes up there with Blue Ivy, who is apparently 12 years old now, like feels like time is flying by. But he gets up there to accept this award, and he starts kind of going on, and he never writes down his raps. Apparently, he never writes down his speeches either. So he's like kind of rambling on, and then he gets to a point where he starts talking about album of the year and how Beyonce has never won album of the year. Now, to be fair, I think Beyonce's only submitted for it like 3 times or something, and you can't ever be guaranteed. Although I do think Lemonade probably deserved it. Also, her self-titled and Renaissance were the ones that I know that she submitted and didn't win for any of them. And Jay-Z gets up there and says it doesn't make any sense if she's the most awarded Grammy artist ever. She's got like 34 or something awards. And she does not have an album of the year one time. He's like, that math doesn't work. If she's won all this stuff and made all this great content, how could she not have album of the year? Basically implying that there's not a place for Black artists. And so you can tell the people in charge here are nervous because what are they going to do? Cut off their like global icon speech? You know what I mean? It's like he's got to be between a rock and a hard place and he knows it, but he's also nervous. So he's also talking about how, he used to boycott the Grammys, but then he'd go home and watch it, because DMX didn't get nominated when he released It's Dark and Hell is Hot and Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood. Both those albums went number one. And he didn't get nominated for a Grammy that year, and Jay-Z did. Jay-Z was like, "Oh, I'm not going to watch. I'm not going to go." But he went home and watched it. So he was just like, "We're actually going to have to boycott this show if we want any changes to actually happen." Like basically calling for like a rallying cry for like Black people to stop just involving themselves, submitting their stuff, like any of it for the show. And it was just like an incredible moment because how uncomfortable so many people in that room were. And then the inevitable obviously happens when they get to album of the year. Who wins it is Taylor Swift.
Yep. And I bet nobody sweat that whole situation more than her because she's not a human being. She's like a creature. Like, listen, I'm allowed to have these horrid opinions because I sat through the entire 3-hour Eras Tour movie and watching her move, her face and her body, it's like it's her first day in a human body. She's just this awkward, long-bodied alien gazelle lady. She has the stage presence of a school bus fire. But I will say this. Taylor Swift knows how to write a hook. She knows how to write a hook. The music is not for me, but I understand the mechanisms of it, right? It's constructed, not reinventing the wheel pop, heavily targeted at the kind of people that started watching the NFL when she started dating Travis Kelce. The best thing I can liken it to is there's this video of this little kid, this little girl, like 3 years old, wearing a Chiefs jumper. And this kid is only watching the Chiefs game for Taylor Swift. Who's your favorite player? Taylor Swift. That's cute because that's a 3-year-old jumping on the bandwagon being a poser because of the romantic story of the cute football player. But there are 38-year-old women that are doing this too. And as Hall & Oates would say, I can't go for that. No can do. So I'm just like, and I listened to Midnights and I gave it I gave Taylor Swift a fair shake until I saw her do literally every song ever that she's ever written. And it broke me. And I'm allowed to have the opinion that I don't like it. I don't want it.
Yeah. And I think it's completely fair. And I heard I think I was watching some like a TikTok clip about some Bam Margera documentary that's coming out or is out.
Sweet.
So I think it was one of the guys that was like the most messed up on drugs. Novak, I think was his name. Brandon Novak.
Yeah.
But he's like totally clean and sober now and, very well spoken. But he said, when you get famous, you stop aging at the age you get famous because you have all this money. You have no reason to change anymore. And if that's the case, Taylor Swift got famous when she was like 16,
something like that,
with her first few songs. And given how she like acts now, so she wins album of the year, right? Another person was also nominated for that, Lana Del Rey. And I'm also going to list off here just so you can like kind of understand the heavy hitters that were involved with this. So the nominated albums was The Age of Pleasure by Janelle Monáe, The Record by Boy Genius, World Music Radio by John Batiste. So those three are like, you knew probably were not winning this thing. Although John Batiste did win one out of nowhere on us, what, last year or the year before.
Mhm.
The other albums on there was SOS by SZA, Miley Cyrus, Endless Summer Vacation, the Lana Del Rey, Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard, and the Olivia Rodrigo Guts album. So some like heavy hitter albums, and we covered, I think, most of those on the show anyway.
Mhm.
And I was hoping that it was going to be either SZA or Olivia Rodrigo. I felt like both of those albums kind of deserved it because, SZA's album was just kind of a masterpiece. I think that one we're going to look back on as, hopefully she can do better. But if she doesn't, like, how could you? You know what I mean? It was absolutely phenomenal. The range of emotions and kind of sonic movement that it had on that album, it was really just extremely well done. Olivia Rodrigo's album was just really fun, just a pop punk missile, just like really, really well put together that way. I didn't feel the same way about the Miley Cyrus album. I thought it was okay. Obviously, I did not listen to the Taylor Swift because it is music made for people that just don't feel like thinking. They just want to hear something that sounds clever, but she rhymes car with bar in every other song. And I'm just like, get something more creative than that.
Well, she did. Sometimes I feel like everybody is a sexy baby and I'm the monster on the hill. Actual lyric.
Yeah, I just see in the thing is, Taylor Swift fans, that lyric is nonsense, right? Like, you and I both know that lyric is nonsense, and you listeners out there, that's nonsense. But her fans are gonna look at that and say, "Oh, it's an Easter egg. We have to figure out who the
Mhm.
monster on the hill is." Is it Jake Gyllenhaal? And it's just like,
No, he's the red scarf song where he took her virginity. He took her red
oh,
scarf.
yeah. Apparently, well, she also took this chance when she gets up there, so she drags Lana Del Rey up on stage, and like
Yes.
I've never felt bad for Lana Del Rey in my lifetime until this point. I had almost as much hate for Lana Del Rey as I did for Taylor Swift. Completely have softened on that. I think her music still sucks, but completely have softened on her as a person because how uncomfortable she looked. Like, she's never won a Grammy. Like, her first time up on a Grammy stage like that was to watch somebody else take the award. And Taylor Swift chose that moment to announce that she's got a new album coming out.
Oh, dude, it has the clunkiest, worst title. But that unfortunately I'm about to botch because it's something.
Let's see if you win the pony.
The Tortured Poet Department.
I think you nailed it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, come on, get the
Yeah.
fuck out of here. Shut the fuck up. Stick it up your ass.
Yeah. How people can, like, honestly listen to listen to that music. And if you listen to a few of the like really poppy songs and they're just like fun sounding and that's why you listen to it, that's fine. But if you like really get involved with Taylor Swift and her music and like figuring out these Easter eggs, like trying to parse out some deeper meaning than that this schlock is supposedly giving you. I mean, you're trying to like get your fill out of a drop of water here. You're trying to like quench your thirst with the thought of moisture. That's what listening to her music is like. There are so many other artists that just provide nonstop knockout great songwriting. And you're going to find tons of them covered in the past on this show. Please do yourself a favor. You can stick to pop music. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to change genres. You don't have to change anything radically in your life at all. You can even keep dressing the same. But please just find something else to, even if you move to Lana Del Rey, that's just, it's better. Just even if you go that far, it's fine. You go to Lord, it's fine. Now, if you get to like Mitski and Olivia Rodrigo, now we're talking. Now you're maybe learning a little something. But please, you got to get off that narcotic. You have to understand that we want to help you. You have to help yourself.
Yeah, it's a sickness. It's like the Borg. The Beehive at least has some class. They have some style. They don't take any shit. They're cheap toilet paper, baby. They don't take crap off nobody.
Mm-hmm.
But the Swifties are perpetually butthurt. They're wildly on. They're like Elizabeth Berkley and Showgirls. They're like vibing 1 minute and then they're psychotically attacking you the next. It's like a cat that rolls over and shows you its belly, and you're like, "I'm gonna get that little scrooper," and then the second you touch it, it's fucking clawing you. Swifties are not to be trusted. They're just not a trustworthy specimen. And it's just someone close to me. I'll out her. Girlfriend of the pod was like, this was the year of Taylor Swift, blah, blah, blah. And this was like truly her year to take over the world. And, you know, if she was a man, everybody would be celebrating it, but because she's a woman, everyone wants to tear her down. And I'm like, that is the dumbest shit I have ever heard.
She literally just had a $2 billion tour.
You just don't. Why are you feeling bad for this
Yeah.
fucking dodo? So that's the kind of brain sickness that Taylor Swift causes. So you want to know my solution to this whole fucking thing? The big three awards: Record of the Year, Album of the Year, Song of the Year. To recap, Song of the Year really is for the person that wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
Album of the Year is obviously for the whole album, and like the producer is like involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
And then record takes into account the song itself and the performance. So that's kind of like, that's where the performer really gets like, surprisingly, it has more to do with them in record than it does song. So my solve is you give Song of the Year to Miley Cyrus Flowers. You give Record of the Year to Vampire. And you give Album of the Year to SOS. That's yes. My fix.
Yeah, that's an easy fix. And honestly, you could do literally anything other than what they did. And I think I would be fine with it. But to have an album like SOS and an album like Guts, and as good as, you know, people were telling me there's Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard is as an album, you know, like there's, cannot tell me that Midnight's was a better album than any of those. You cannot tell me that there was songwriting better on Midnight's than there was on any of those other albums, or there was more fun to be had on Midnight's than there was on any of those other albums. So the only thing that it could be is sales. And the thing is, at the end of the day, it's all politics with the Grammys. I mean, it just is what it is. If you lobby and campaign enough, like, your stuff will win. You know, it just kind of is what it is. If you grease the right wheels, you're going to get those awards. The best artist was given to Victoria Monet, and she literally said in her speech, "Thank you to all the people that were campaigning for me." Because best new artist, there were also some heavy hitters. It was, let's see, Ice Spice, Jelly Roll, Gracie Abrams, Noah Khan, our boy, The Warren Treaty, and Coco Jones. So, you know, to me, like, Victoria Monet had a big hit, but like Ice Spice was everywhere.
Ice Spice sucks.
I mean, she sucks, but it's like, if your metric for like Midnight's winning album of the year is just like, oh, this thing blew up and took over the world, you know, like, the quality of it doesn't matter, because you can't say it's better than SOS. Like, if the quality is what mattered, there's 3 other albums that were better than that in that category. So if for best new artist, you're like, okay, we'll give it to this person that had this one banger song, and maybe she was on a few other ones, but like, Ice Spice was on commercials. She was absolutely, if Midnight's won for that reason, I feel like Ice Spice should have won for the same reason.
You listen to this Victoria Monet person?
The song is good. It's like an R&B, like, club song. You know, it's a good song.
Coco Jones is good. I've listened to some Coco Jones. Coco Jones fucks.
Yeah, so it's not, and I mean, I don't mind that she won it. Like, it's not a problem. But if you're gonna, you know, if you're gonna pick Midnight's because of what it did in the world, like, Ice Spice had that same kind of all those new artists in that category, Ice Spice had that type of impact. So I don't know, like, quality of it doesn't matter, clearly. So it's just like, that's why the Grammys are frustrating sometimes. It's nice to see people nominated, and it's nice to see when someone that does deserve it wins it, you know, and gets that validation. But to get caught up in, like, does it matter if you really win one or not? You know, you're going to just drive yourself nuts.
Well, and the thing is, something like Midnights, you get it because there is, whether you like it or not, there's craftsmanship behind it. So, you and I don't agree with it. The music is the equivalent of someone who can't metabolize cilantro and it tastes like soap to them. That's how I feel about her music. But Ice Spice is just like so objectively bad that I'm sure they were like, we can't. We can't. We have like no credibility anyway, but we just can't. We can't do this even as a joke. She's bad. Ice Spice sucks.
Yeah, there's and I haven't. I mean, I don't know how much I've really listened to of her. I think just that one she did with Pink Pantheress.
We got to watch my reaction video.
Well, I watched that. Yeah, I guess that. So that in the Pink Pantheress one, then.
Yikes!
Yeah.
Yikes! Spikes.
Well, so that pretty much kind of takes care of the awards and stuff like that for the Grammys. There are a couple other things that I do want to shout out. Is the performance of Fast Car by Tracy Chapman and Luke Combs.
Oh yeah,
Was absolutely phenomenal. Luke Combs looked like a giddy little school kid up there that he got to perform that song with Tracy Chapman. Apparently, his dad would play that song for him all the time when he was growing up, like, and it became a bonding song for him and his dad. And so when he did the song, he didn't change a thing. So he didn't get any songwriting credit for it. Everything that was made from that song went to Tracy Chapman. And it blew up. Like, I don't know if it was as famous as it was when she did it initially, because that song took over the world back then. I was 5 years old, or no, 1988 was when that came out. I was 1 year old when that came out. The first time I remember hearing it, I was probably 5 or 6.
mm-hmm.
And I've heard it for my entire life since then. And it's everywhere. It's on the radio, whatever kind of classic rock station, doesn't matter. Like, it's on that channel because it is a timeless song. It is a standard, as they say, of our time. And Luke Combs kind of breathed some new life into it. And she performed the song for the first time live in like 13 years or something like that. I mean, this is what got her out of, and I don't think she would have done it if she didn't feel like he had that kind of like reverence for the song. Like, if you look at his face, it's like when you got exactly what you wanted for Christmas when you were a little kid, when you thought Santa was still the one bringing it. And you're like, how did he know? Like, you're just surprised, baffled, like elated. Just the look on his face was as happy as someone could be.
Well, and that's great. And I think the greatest thing about it, and probably the reason that Tracy Chapman agreed to come back and perform it with him, is it's not a fucking white guy getting credit for a song that a black woman wrote. You know what I mean? Like, like that was a big contentious thing where it was like, oh, barely anyone gives a shit about the Tracy Chapman version. They only care about Luke Combs. And it's like, well, if that served to popularize the song and revive interest in her, and then it was clever how they did it too, where they announced he was going to do it. And I think to have him, even though that's the thing, right? It's like, it's his cover that in this moment blew up. There's nothing wrong necessarily with having him do it, but the right thing was always to have Tracy Chapman come do it too. So it's credit where credit is truly due. That moment was not about Luke Combs. I think that's cool. And it was like Tracy Chapman coming back. It's like Joni Mitchell's 80-year-old ass too. Like,
yeah,
just these people that are kind of coming back and taking ownership of their stuff. And I'm happy for Tracy Chapman. That's really awesome.
Yeah, it was very, very cool to watch. It sounded great. I mean, they really, really put, like, you could tell that he loves the song. And she was I don't think she realized like just how respected she is in that room, because you just kind of see a realization on her face eventually that like these people were just up on their feet, standing ovation the entire time they were playing. Like, everybody was so pumped to be seeing her sing the song. And when you listen to the lyrics, like, there's, it was a black woman that wrote it, but that's why it's a standard. And that's why it's so timeless, is like, there's so many things that you and I and Luke Combs and every different kind of color person can relate to. It's about, it's the same thing with like Springsteen songs. It's just got this kind of like universal, we're going to beat the odds. We need to, like, life is hard. We were dealt a bad hand. It's this universal feeling of like these obstacles that you have to get over to succeed and make it in life. And, there's always the push and pull of like whether you're going to make it or not. And I think it is a very like applicable song to a lot more folks than just who wrote it, but I think the way they did it and making sure people knew that she wrote it, like making sure that they remember like this song exists because of her. Whatever else she might have done in her life, like she made an all-time, I don't there's so many songs that are just so embedded in the fabric of like radio play and American life, and that's one of them.
Yeah. It's what a beautiful note to take us out on from the Grammys episode.
Yeah.
It's a
I do
beautiful
want
ride.
to I have two more shout outs.
Oh my God.
Billy Joel debuted a new single and it was phenomenal. I'm telling, like, I thought it was going to be like, we just had the Rolling Stones debacle of an album that just happened. The Billy Joel single, watch that live performance because it was phenomenal. The song he wrote is really, really good. He's aging, kind of like Springsteen aged, where it's like, it's not Uptown Girl anymore, and then also Annie Lennox during the like in memoriam section did a cover of Nothing Compares to You. That was absolutely incredible. Just how like low and warm her voice is. I've never heard the song. You hear Sinead do it, you hear Prince do it, you heard Chris Cornell do it, but you never hear somebody, or I haven't anyway, in that like really kind of low, really breathy register like Annie Lennox has. And it was, I mean, I was crying. I was tearing up.
Yeah, but that was good as hell. Wow.
Yeah.
A night of 1,000 surprises.
Yeah. But just overall, like pretty good Grammys. As far as performances go, awards, could have gone better, but hey, that's usually the case.
And it always seem to go that you don't get what you want from the show. Pave the parking lot with Emmys to murder Taylor Swift. Fell apart by the end. Admittedly not my strongest work.
There's if anybody's still here at this point, they're not going to care.
God bless their little pea picking hearts.
God bless them. And if you are still here at this point, just hit the subscribe button. Because if you like pain as much as we do, you want to be here for the next time we do this. And we will see you next time. We'll probably have an album. We'll talk about that. We'll probably have an album to do next week. But if you have anything you want to hear, put it in those comments. Hop in there. Tell us what kind of music, what kind of people Donald Fagen makes music for in those comments. I want to hear that.
On a night like this,
yeah,
story is told how the women get restless and the men grow cold. Come on.
Uh-huh.
Who's Donald Fagen music for? Everybody.
We're doomed. I hope AI takes over very soon. Until next time.